Hey guys, it's your favorite servant of the kingdom. And today I wanted to talk about one of my I don't know if I would say favorite, but probably one of the most interesting and well-known Bible quotes. And that's, but many who are first will be last and the last will be first. Um and this comes from the New Testament in the Gospel of Mark, Mark 10, um verse 31. And the context of it is that, your boy Peter Kepa um goes up to Jesus and he's like, "Hey, look, we've left everything and we followed you." And, then Jesus or Yeshua starts talking about, like, yeah, there are gonna be tons of people who will receive persecutions and honors for my name's sake and in the kingdom. And then he says that the first will be last and the last will be first. And shout out to one of the ladies in my gospel group, my uh good friend Phyllis. When we were reading this in the group, Phyllis said this is kind of um revolutionary for him to say this, and I said, well, you know, if you really think about it, it's kind of not, because this is a theme throughout the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, right? Like, think about it, guys. Think of the story of Joseph. Yeah, he was uh he was his father's favorite. He was um Jacob's favorite son, right? But like um no, his brothers were jealous of him, and he was a weakling. Basically, they took him and they sold him into servitude in Egypt. um and what happened, guys? He interpreted a dream for Pharaoh, and after being thrown in jail and being falsely accused by Potiphar's wife because she wanted to have some of that ancient Israelite sausage, um, some kosher sausage, but nah, uh, and against all odds, right? He went from being the last, literally a servant, and I can't say the other word because YouTube, to being Pharaoh's right hand man, literally. And of course, as we know, fortunes reversed, right? By the time of the Exodus. But once again, this time in the Exodus, it was the opposite, right? Like, Moses grew up in Pharaoh's household, and in order to free his people, he had to lower his status. Obviously, not in the eyes of God slash Hashem, right? Not in his eyes, not at all. but in the eyes of society, he became like they were literally wanderers. He was literally a wanderer in terms of social status. Like, they had nothing, bro. And so, and you know, there are many other examples like that of the first being last and the last being first in the Hebrew Bible. We could also talk about David, but the point is that, like, you know, it's nothing that was not in the Torah from the beginning. Jesus was just um I guess making it more clear or drawing out that lesson. But in my opinion, it's always been there. If you really think about it. Um, and although I am a non-believer, you guys know I care about the lessons of all religions, especially Christianity, because it's so important to um Hispanic and Latino culture. Um, and yeah, like, and that's where kind of non-believers kind of get it wrong because, the Bible, especially the Old Testament, um, it's not really about who's right or wrong. Because if you look at these people, a lot of them were very flawed. Um, I guess Joseph not really, but Jacob, man, uh, like, he got his birthright, remember? He stole his birthright through treachery, through, you know, stealing it from Esau. So it's like, it's not really about mm, who's right or wrong. It's about if God chooses this person, a person you wouldn't expect, a weak person, the last person among all persons to be chosen or to be the one that affects great change, then it's gonna be that way. Or if he wants to, and this goes into Job a lot, right? If he wants to go, take it all away from a person who's first among everyone like Job, well then so be it. You don't have to agree with it. I certainly don't. I think that's um somewhat cruel. Um but that does seem to be the way it is, and I when I because I've read the Bible like 3 times. The only part of it I haven't read through completely is the Catholic Deuterocanon, although I do have a copy of the Bible that has that. I need to get on that. But I never realized that that sort of message of the first being last and the last being first until um my graduate theology classes. That's the first time I realized that. Shout out to Miss Franks for helping us see that. Um but going further then the last the first being last and the last being first, it continues. Um, you know, later on when James and John are asking Jesus to grant them to sit on each of his sides respectively. Um uh and the other disciples get mad at that. They get jealous, even though Jesus tells them, like, you know, you probably wouldn't be able to handle it. And then he eventually says to them, this is chapter 10, uh, verses 42 to 44. When the 10 heard this, or I'm sorry, so Jesus called them and said to them, you know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wishes to be first among you must be servant of all. They use the other word for servant, which again I can't say. But I think that if if think about it, could be actually considered the revolutionary part of that statement because um not only is it saying like, okay, yeah, um be careful who you like make fun of because they might end up being a Joseph or a Moses, right? Um, but it's saying that in order to be first, you must willingly put yourselves in lower positions and put yourself to serve others. Um, and to be honest, as a disabled person, as someone, and I don't say this out of pity, I just say this because these are the people that supposed Christians, especially in the United States, claim to serve and care about. Um, and I have to be honest, especially considering recent events that happened nearly 3 months ago now, I don't really see that among uh the Christian population here. All I see is hubris. I don't see, you know, them supporting things that would help the lowest among us. Um, I really don't. uh, but I also do want to bring in again my classics liberal arts background and say that, like, yeah, guys, within a Greco-Roman context where he's right, the Greeks and the Romans, for them, virtue, especially as a man, was tied up with military service. And if you know anything about Latin America, you'll know that that's primarily the case in Latin America as well. That's kind of like a at least for um like in Guatemala, Ladinos or mestizos, um that's kind of part of, our culture because of that Roman value, that martial culture that they have, where, you know, part of becoming great was to to be a soldier or be a commander in the Roman army. And that, brothers and sisters, I think is truly revolutionary. To say to someone in Greco-Roman society, of course I know they were Judeans slash Palestinians, uh Jews, of course, right? But I mean, just in the context of what Christianity would later become to Gentiles, for him to say that living in Hellenistic culture is crazy. You have to understand what a reversal of values that truly was. Um, and yeah, I guess my last words are, um, just be careful who you mistreat or who you badmouth, because you could have a Joseph or a Moses in your midst. And, you know, I also think that this is why, like, especially to a lot of disabled people, including myself, even though I don't really like believe in the supernatural stuff, it's really attractive because, you know, we're at the bottom rungs of society. So to have someone tell us that there's a chance for us to become great by being good to others, or that our lives can have intrinsic value outside of just, money making, uh, and, producing goods and stuff like that. That's also revolutionary. And I want you all to sit with that. All right, bye. See you.